Yeah, thank you again for joining today on this Monday. Here to talk about catering, using meez for your catering operations. A lot of businesses, even if they're not caterers, are using, make sure to have catering as an option or banquets as an option to, diversify, get more clients, get a little more money from events. So we want to just go over how we can use meez in a variety of ways, just to help you with those events. Making sure they're costed right, making sure that your orders are in right, and just trying to streamline everything. So quick introduction for me. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Doug. I am the customer success manager here at meez. So what I do is speak to chefs and restaurant owners and everybody in between and help them use the program. So I learned a lot from everybody who's joined and, listening to how they've used it, passing information, from about how others are using the program and kind of just training folks on best practices. So, really happy to be here to kind of give you what I've learned about meez and what it can do for you and for kind of helping with your catering. So I'm going to dive in. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. Can I get a thumbs up or anything from anyone who's see my screen? Everyone good? Okay, cool. Wonderful. Well, so I've gone ahead and created a recipe book called Catering. So I'm going to be working within that. And when I click on Catering, you'll see I have a few different kind of recipes and docs that I've worked with. So we're going to go through kind of the ways, way I've sort of built almost like a template for myself within meez so that I can kind of replicate this for, not just for one event, but for every new event. I don't have to do all the work twice. So where I want to start is this recipe here, my catering template. I'm going to click on that. And for those of you who already do catering and have kind of spoken to me before, this will look a little familiar. This is kind of what I recommend on how to kind of structure a template starting out, because what this is going to do is it's going to give you a couple of different options. It's going to allow you to effectively scale your recipes so you can build, the dishes without a lot of waste and, to very high specifications for, client count or just quantities. It's going to give you the ability to cost out these recipes really easily, and it's going to give you the ability to have an order list prepared right out of this. So what have I done? I've used the sub recipe feature. For those of you who don't know, you can take a recipe that you've already created and you can add it to a parent recipe. And by doing that, you create this little down arrow next to it. So you'll see I created just, kind of mock-ups, example platter one, a past platter example, and even just a recipe that maybe is for a station. So you're not doing necessarily past hors d'oeuvres, maybe you're just dropping off, quantities of product and saying goodbye. You'll see that there are some important little tidbits here to note. First of all, these are all sub recipes. So if I click on the down arrow here, see my hummus recipe, there it is, with a yield of 4 quarts. And for this, for this station, I just want, 1 hotel pan as my quantity that I'm going to make for this event. Hotel pans are in meez set to a volume measurement, right? It's very, very important to keep this in mind that when I say 1 hotel pan, meez thinks it's a volume measurement, it knows that. And my yield in the hummus is 4 quarts, which is also volume. So I try to keep these two speaking to one another, volume to volume. Whereas up here, my past platters, I wrote 5 each, 5 platters of this variety, 5 platters of this variety. If I click on the down arrow here, here's my example platter, it's pigs in a blanket, 5 each. My yield here is 1 platter. A platter in meez is also an each. 5 each, into 1 platter. It's speaking the same language there. I'm not saying 5 each and the yield for my platter is a 1 quart. It'd be a little more difficult for me is to figure out what you're talking about there. So I always recommend, when you're using sub recipes, remember your units of measure are very, very important. You want to keep those talking to one another. So eaches talk to eaches, volume talk to volume, weight to weight, ideally. So that's the first thing. That's going to make a big difference when you're trying to cost your recipes and when you're trying to develop your order list. So let's quickly talk about costing, because really when you're doing your catering operations, you start from having a proposed menu. Maybe you have something online already kind of pre-developed, but maybe you're doing custom menus for people. You have to kind of build that menu and you have to cost it out. You have to get it approved by the client. all of that can be done right in Meez. If I have my ingredients costed out, I click on the cost tab here, you put in these quantities into your recipe, it'll automatically generate the costs of your platters. Now, just FYI, these are all just kind of made up numbers. So if you're like, why is pigs in a blanket, platter $300, $130? It's just because I made it up. So, but just keep in mind now you have this information in here. You can know right away, okay, for this service, for this catering event, it's gonna be about $205 just for the cost of the food. And then right below here, this is where you can do your markup. So I would click edit in the food cost calculator here. Keep in mind, you have to put in a portion size. And the portion size, just like we talked about how yields have to talk to units of measure, this one up here, one service, just do the same thing. Just click on the quantity one, pick service. And that way it knows, okay, we're talking about $205, easy. Now it gives you your cost. And now you can just put in whatever your percentage markup is. Let's say it's, you want a 20% food cost. So it's 5 times the amount. There you go. There's your sell price. If your food cost percentage, you're fine with being at 50. There you go. You just hit 50 and it'll spit out the sell price for you. If you just need to know how much profit you need to make off of this event, you can just put in the profit if you want. I need to make $200 off of just the food alone. There you go. So this can be really quick for you to just develop a quick price quote for your customers. You can share this with them and they can say, I need to cut down, this too much. So you can say, okay, well, what would it be? What if we just, instead of 5 of these past platters, we only did 2? You can actually go over here to the 5, just press 2. And it'll drop the number right there, right in real time for you and give you a new cost. And you can just, share this information right with your client, get, hone in on the right amount and you're done. So it can be really quick to give them what they need. You can even share this recipe with them if you want and show them how much, of each item they're going to get so they can review it. You can review it together. All right. So that's the costing side. Obviously, that's really helpful. You get your costing in there, you get your proposal done, approved by the client. Awesome. Then what? What I love, the next step that I really love to show off is the fact that you can, right from here, you've already built this, hit done, go to these 3 dots at the top here and click export. You have 2 options. You can click export a recipe to a Word doc, not what we really want here. What we actually want is click order list. And when we export this order list, it's going to download a spreadsheet for you. It's going to send it to your email address. And it's going to look something like this. And all it's doing is grabbing all the quantities of every ingredient in all of those sub-recipes. If there's multiple of the same kind, like if you've sriracha in multiple recipes, it's going to add it together and put it into one line for you. And it's going to tell you how much of this ingredient you need to buy. All of this information, all these columns, purchase item name, purchase unit, purchase quantity, these are all in the vendor name over here. These are all being pulled from Meez in your system. So if you have them entered into your ingredients, it'll pull those out for you. Quantity and unit of measure, those are being pulled from the recipe. So pigs in a blanket, we know we're ordering about 150 each. It's a 20 count case, so you need, 7.5 cases. So you end up buying 8 cases, right? This is just a really quick way for you to just go, okay, I have every ingredient I need to buy. If you have your vendors in there, even better, give you a list of vendors, and you can just go one by one. Okay, I need 1 case of baking soda, 1 bottle of tahini, whatever, all the way down the list. You'll notice it puts it in decimals, so just keep that in mind. It's just doing the math for you, but you can go through and do your inventory and just see what you have, check it off, what you need to buy. Boom, you already have an order list, you're already ready to go, you know exactly who you have to buy from. All right. But what do you do now that you have your order list, you call your vendors, get it all set up? I'm going to go back to my recipe book. We've developed these with a couple of customers before. I'm more than happy to send out send this out to you as well for joining the webinar, a little treat for you. But we've used docs a lot for this kind of stuff. So docs, if I go home real quick, is right here in the middle. And it's a really great feature because it is basically used for anything that's not recipe related. So cleaning schedules, contact information for who to call when the hood breaks, or contact information for those who work at the restaurant or the organization. It can really be anything you want it to be. And we've developed prep list templates that you can use for events like this. So this is like a basic one. And then if I go back to the one that's completed, this is what it could look like for you on the day of the event or the day before, setting up a nice little prep list right in Meez that you can share with your prep cooks. You can, just keep for your own sake, just keep in mind to be able to, manage your time well. You can create little check boxes as well. And we just, developed it like, here's, hour by hour, half hour by half hour, what you need to buy, what recipe you're making, and what equipment you need. Now, these can all be links too, which is really cool. So if I go to example platter, right, my pigs in a blanket, copy this URL up here, I can actually add that right in here. Let's just pretend like this chicken marinade, add it as a URL. Now that's a link right there. So you can actually put in links right like this so that whoever this is being shared with, they just have to click the link, brings it right here. They know how much they have to make of everything. I think this is a really, really valuable tool to get used to, docs, because, recipes, it just kind of complements the recipes a lot. By the way, all of these items, I think the really important thing to remember is that you kind of set them up as templates. So they're, the 3 dots in the middle here. When you click that, just like we did for export, just right above that is make a copy of your recipe. And so you can, catering template is your example, click make a copy. And then this one is, for, let's say the week of, 7/10, or you have it for, as a proposal for a specific client, put the client's name in there. And then just keep iterating on that. Keep creating those new ones. So you're not doing that same work twice. And then all you have to do is, for that next client, maybe you change the quantities, maybe you just sub in different platters. It really streamlines the whole thing. So you're not doing the same thing over and over again. And then when you have your prep list ready to go, then it's time for your staff to actually make the dishes. And if they have to make, let's say, 1 hotel pan worth of hummus, there's your hummus recipe. This is another little tip on using the units of measure in Meez to kind of scale and to convert. Notice how the yield is in quarts. Well, how does someone know how many quarts are in a hotel pan? Well, we actually know exactly how many quarts are in a hotel pan. It's already in Meez. So all you do is click on the quart, type in hotel pan. You'll see that we have the list of every size of hotel pan in here. We want the 4-inch. There we go. So the normal batch is a third hotel pan, but we want 1. There we go. Perfect. And it'd say its batch size is about 3. Maybe we'll just make our lives easier. Click on that batch size, and you can actually put in the amount you want. Let's do 3. And there we go. We're going to make a 3 times batch for this. Simple. And then boom, now you're ready to go. So in that way, you can really use this program to do everything from the very beginning, costing out your recipes, costing out your platters, your catering event, proposing it to your customer, even tinkering with it, onto, ordering, prep, and then execution as well. Something that a lot of people ask is, well, if these are, drop-off, let's say drop-off catering, how can we use this? Can we use packaging involved? Because, lids, trays, cutlery, anything like that. And the answer is absolutely. It's really actually very useful to use packaging in Meez. So I personally like to do it like this. I actually create, just like I did this order list, I create a recipe called packaging. And this one, I'd be more specific, as specific as possible. So large platter, medium platter, small platter, whatever you want. In this recipe, it's 1 large tray, 1 plastic serving spoon, 1 lid. Pretty simple. You can add as much as you want. But again, I'm very specific about, the naming, just large lid. So that way I can have medium lid later, etc. I think I might have somebody joining. There we go. What this does, it just makes it really nice and easy to be able to pull this information into my other recipes. So if I go back to my catering template and I click edit, now I want to add the cost of my packaging in here. Pretty easy. Let's maybe add a header right here. Call it packaging. Hit enter. All right, now I have a new section using that header feature. And from here, I want to see what my packaging sub recipe is. There it is, packaging planner, one of those, hit enter. And just like, because I had already put in the costs for my ingredients within that, it already just pulls in the cost right there. Now I know, got to tack on 16 cents for this. Obviously, as you're scaling and as you're using this in a variety of ways, that cost can be very, very important. And you want to just, make sure you're accounting for every cent. So that's a really, really good way just to incorporate the cost of those, so you don't have to bother with, adding it as your kind of operating expenses. So those are more or less the, the big reasons why, or the big kind of features in meez that I would use this for using for, your catering operations or any, banquets you're doing. I would love to open it up to any folks who've used this already with their catering operations, and see if there's any tips or anything that I've missed, any suggestions that you've come up with. Would love to hear from folks. So yeah, anybody have any thoughts or even questions at this point about stuff I've went over, but maybe kind of skipped over too quickly? No one? Don't be shy. Yeah.
All good here. I haven't used it, but that looks very user friendly. And I'm guessing with the utensils or packaging, that also is linked, say with like Restaurant 365, and those pricings will update or if they update as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So anything that you costing wise, you can cost in a variety of ways. You can add them in manually, but yes, if you're using Restaurant 365 or another system, we have our own invoice processing system too. We can pull that data in, and then if you have an updated cost to your trays, this 16 cents would adjust automatically from the ingredient to the sub recipe to the parent recipe.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah. And if you're ever curious what it, why the cost is the way it is, just you want to dig into the recipes itself. So I'd go into the packaging, and then from there I'd click on, large tray, and I'd see what that's at the ingredient level, that's where the cost is coming from. So if you did have, again, link to R365, you'd see that ID number there that would say something like whatever the name would be in R365. Any other questions, any other comments, suggestions? No? Everything's so clear, so easy? Well, one thing I want to make sure I plug before I go is, we're doing a lot of these webinars based on kind of the niche aspects of meez. And what we're in the background right now, we're building what we're calling the meez community, and it's going to be a community page for folks like yourselves who want to join and learn about how others are using this program, to talk to one another, ask questions, give suggestions, and just generally participate. We know chefs and food entrepreneurs are very community oriented people. They like to learn from each other, share, even whether sharing recipes or just tips and tricks, business practices, flagging that they're hiring, whatever it might be. So keep a keen eye out for some notices. I think this week is when we're launching. We're going to probably do a webinar in the 2 weeks from today, really introducing it. But keep an eye out, because we want folks to join and really learn from each other, because there's a lot you can do with this program, and it's often really nice to hear from everyone who's so creative out there, using this program for their own businesses, because every business is different, every restaurant's different. You can really learn a lot from each other. So I'd love for everyone to take a look at that when we launch it, join up, participate, but especially come to the webinar in 2 weeks to learn more about it, because I think it's going to be a really great part of this app. And then on top of that, before I go, the question mark at the top right, always want to flag this. This little question mark is a really good friend. It will allow you first to send us a message directly to us if you have any questions as you're working through this. If you're having any issues with the order list or using docs or whatever it might be, send us a chat. We're really excited to help teach you exactly what to do. But also here, suggest a feature. We use, we really, this app is going to be very different next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. We're going to be constantly building new features. And we really want to hear from our users about what they want and what would work best for them. So please, please, please suggest features as you go, as you're using this, even, things that are far out there and you would love to see, but, maybe, are years down the line, still tell us, because it really gives us an idea about who's using this and what they want. We're building this for the chef community, for the restaurant community, and the food community. So we'd love to hear your thoughts about that. So please do that. It's again in the question mark at the top right, suggest a feature right below the kind of help in the chat. Okay. Still have a few minutes before our 30 minutes are up. So I just want to make sure everyone has a chance to ask any questions they want. Feeling good? Okay. All right, well, I hope everyone found it helpful. Reach out if you need anything. We're going to be sending this webinar out. We do have one chat. We have multiple sub recipes. Okay, Ricky, multiple sub recipes that appear in multiple dishes. Is there a way to export the sub recipes in a similar way as grocery lists? There is, yes. Any recipe. So I did it from the top level, right? I did catering template export, but any of these alone, the hummus, right, could be exported as an order list by itself. So you can export any amount you want. And yes, when you scale it, it'll export as the scaled quantities. So yeah, you can do it right from the sub recipe itself, Ricky, or you can do it from the parent recipes and beyond. It's by far our most exported feature here, apparently. I learned today, because we have the plus new at the top right here, where you can export ingredient costs and recipe costs and nutrition. But turns out found out today that the order lists are actually by far the most used export in our app. So very cool. It's a really good feature. Really can kind of just take care of a lot of that busy work. All right. Who else? Ricky provided a little more time for us. Anyone else? Any other questions? All right. Well, just know we are here to help. If you run into any issues, please reach out. But yeah, and look out for the webinar invitation for 2 weeks from today when we talk about the community.